difficulties.
Little TD.
Now, here we go. Yes,
Little
sir.
TD, baby. Little TD, not touchdown, but technical difficulties.
We got over those technical difficulties. We have to, hey, our crowd is here. They're getting ready for us. They're like, where's Jim and Byron? Well, they really said, where's Jim? And they said, oh, yeah, Byron's
the B, if you ain't got the B on that, it ain't gonna be worth nothing. So
good evening. Good evening.
good evening. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing good. Just getting through one day at a time.
Yeah. I hear you. I'm going to have a lady listening to me today. Her name is Candy K. Horn. Candy K.
Hi, Candy. How are you doing today?
She's famous, so we're gonna say hello to Miss Candy K. She's live in Houston. Got a house up here in Forney.
Oh,
so
okay.
She's all over the state. She's worldwide.
Okay. Well, good. A lot of stuff to talk about. We were talking about it before the show. Teams are starting to make their moves.
Right.
Obviously, some of the recent news is talking about the New York Jets. They picked up McCole Hardman from Kansas City.
Yeah.
And now they traded Elijah Moore, who they had difficulties with last year.
Right.
He got into a spat with Michael LaFleur. They traded him to the Cleveland Browns.
Right.
And then
Elijah Moore, he got some talent. He's a spectacular player. So, the Browns seem like they trying to beef up a little bit.
Yeah, they are. I agree with you there. And the Browns have made some good decisions. They got a defensive end. They got rid of Javon Clooney.
Mm-hmm.
And they got another defensive end, and I think he'll be a better fit with the Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett. So
Their defense always have been pretty competitive. They just been having a lot of problems with not scoring, but they running backs are the best in the league.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, and I think the quarterback will play better this year. I really do.
Yeah. Maybe if you don't get too many massages, you know.
That's funny, but it's not funny.
Hey, I'm just speaking what I heard. You know, massages. He might want to get his head massaged. I don't know, but
I don't know.
Man,
here's something that we'll talk about. It. Juju Smith-Schuster went to the New England Patriots.
Yeah, he signed a 3-year contract.
Yeah, and he said that he won't pay $100,000 to get the number 9 jersey from Matthew Judah. He said it's not worth paying that much money for a number 9.
Well, he might have a better season than the number 9 because he ain't done nothing with the number 9 in Kansas City, and he ain't done a whole lot with the number 9 in Pittsburgh.
Super Bowl, he did well.
Well, yeah, he caught 9 passes, but they about 60 yards. But my point is, maybe he needs to change numbers.
Yeah, and you know that his mouth or his social media ran him out of Pittsburgh.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I'm sure it caused issues and also in Kansas City because if you remember, he was talking about the cornerback that they beat on that play. He was on him, and that's just the way he's a media guy, social media guy.
Yeah,
and I'm sure he wears out his welcome because he is a talented receiver,
very talented,
but he also may talk a little bit too much.
Yeah, I know Keith Angler, one of the other affiliate guys who does a lot of social media with us. He wasn't too impressed by doing the signing Juju. Last Friday we was on together with Matt and Jack, and he didn't seem too impressed. He wasn't excited about the signing of Juju.
Yeah. And they're also looking at DeAndre Hopkins and possibly trading for him. But I think what's happening with Hopkins is they're asking themselves I heard he had first of all, he was with Bill O'Brien at Houston, if you remember the Texans.
Absolutely.
O'Brien traded him to Arizona. But I heard there's some off the field issues. I don't know if this is true, but they said that there's some off field issues with him. And,
well, last year he sat out the first six weeks.
Yeah.
For some type of testing positive for some type of enhancement drug or something like that. I don't know. It was something that was. I don't know. I don't know. It was some type of enhancement.
Yeah. You know how you receivers are, but I don't know. Now, the Dallas Cowboys.
What the D stand for? Dirty dogs.
The Dallas Cowboys signed Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones is a Texas guy. He's from McKinney North. He might be the only guy in the NFL faster than Byron Williams. He won.
He's fast. He's a world-class athlete.
Yeah, he won the state championship in the 100 meters, and he ran a 98-yard touchdown while he was at Tampa. He's won 2 Super Bowls. He won one at Tampa a couple years ago, and then he won the last year. He won one at Kansas City.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. But to me, obviously, he is just a safety policy if the Powell doesn't come back at the beginning of the season.
So Pollard,
Pollard, excuse me. If he doesn't come back during the beginning of the season, he's probably just be safe. They're still
they ain't gonna have no good physical running back like they had with Zeke.
That's my point. And here's the thing I was going to ask you tonight was Bijan Robinson. Everybody's saying that he's going to fall to the Cowboys. I don't foresee him going.
That ain't gonna happen. I was looking at the draft, mock draft. They got him going between, I think, 10 and 15.
That's what I'm thinking. Because if you got the best running back in the draft, he's not going to go in the 20s.
No.
And then the previous couple of years, running backs haven't been a priority. But you heard what Mike McCartney said in the offseason. They want to run the ball. So people know if he's sitting, they're going to try to get him. They're going to either the Cowboys are going to try to move up and get him, or they're not getting him.
If the Cowboys want to go deeper for the Super Bowl, they better try to move up.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, the Giants have made some good moves. I thought the Giants were baller. They signed, is it Slayton?
Yeah, Slayton again. Yeah, Slayton.
Back. They got Hoskins back.
They got most of their receivers back, and they got a good tight end.
Yeah, and Darren Waller. Yeah. And I don't understand what McDaniels is doing out in Raiders for I was almost saying Oakland, the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't understand his thinking. Obviously, he's got Jimmy G. He let the other quarterback that came in for Carr, he let him lead. So I don't understand what he's thinking and it seems like the players don't really care for him, from my understanding.
Well, you could tell the way they played last year. Anytime you're leading 3 games, 17 points or better, and you can come back and lose those games, that right there tell you it's a coaching problem.
Yeah, and then Josh Jacobs is still not signed.
I thought they franchise tagged him.
They did franchise him, but until you sign the franchise tag, you don't have to show up. Yeah, he doesn't seem happy. Obviously, Adams doesn't seem happy, the receiver. So they got some issues. I think that this is Josh McDaniels' problem.
What?
Is that you watch the Giants coach, how he gets the team together. He's strict, but he's smart. Josh McDaniels is not being whatever he is. He's trying to be Belichick. You cannot be Bill Belichick. You have to get your confidence and you got to get the trust of your team.
Well, you got to get control of the locker room.
Yeah.
And you got to make sure that these guys play their heart out for you. In other words, you got to be a player coach.
I don't know if it's so much a player coach. I think it's more getting your message across.
Okay.
And that's what I think. Jimmy Johnson wasn't truly a player's coach. He got his message because he said certain things. He had little sayings You know, we're going to play it, or we're going to practice like champions. We're going to play like champions because someday we will be champions.
So it's a mindset. So in other words, he got your mind ready to go with your body in preparation.
And that's why I think the coach at the Giants is obviously so good. Yeah, it's because of that. Oh yeah, Jimmy G. Yeah, well, he didn't take it. He did not take the lifetime membership. They offered him the lifetime membership. He did not take it. But he also got something from the Bunny Ranch, and you know about the Bunny Ranch.
Bunny Ranch gonna mess him up. I tell you what.
Comes back to he was dating a porn star at one time, Mia something.
Yeah,
and he was dating a porn star. So Jimmy G, he could get in some trouble in Vegas.
Yeah, well, Vegas
down the street from Alliant Arena too.
Yeah, you got to be a focused player when you go to Vegas.
Yeah, you really do. And they've had, obviously, before McDaniels got there, they had issues with
a lot of issues.
Ruggs, and a couple of players got in trouble there. And that's the problem is you can get in some serious issues anywhere. Yeah. Obviously, Alvin Kamara being in Vegas, there's just, that's just the nightlife where that goes on in Vegas.
Yeah, he got an issue still out there, lingering. So
yeah. So there. And it's just there. I think the Cowboys made some smart moves. I think the Giants made smart moves. The team that's going to be interesting because I think they have some really good players. Nobody question is the Philadelphia Eagles. And you've always said this: teams don't. Nobody's repeated in how many years?
Since I think I want to say 2013 or 2008, something like that.
Yeah, and it was the Eagles, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the Eagles that did it. Yeah. So, in other words, the previous year we had the Cowboys. Yes. Last year we had the Eagles. So this year going to be the Giants.
No, and I'll tell you why. The Giants have got to win more games in conference. They struggle with in-conference games. That's where they struggled at. They hadn't beat the Cowboys in 2 or 3 years. They struggled against the Eagles, and that's the thing.
Well, we got two good tight ends now, and so we're gonna have different mismatches, and then we're gonna get a good receiver. I think we're gonna get a receiver in the draft. They're gonna come in and play, and then of course Shepard and those guys, if they can stay healthy, it will be a good mixture of talent on our offense. And I know we signed a good linebacker I think he's from Detroit.
Yeah.
I forgot who he was, but we did sign a good linebacker, one of the best available free agent linebackers out there on the marketplace. So,
and the Giants, they're going to be better, but the Cowboys are going to be better. And Giants, they're like our little brothers. We hope they do well, but they can't beat little brothers.
But this is going to be one of the things, Jim. Can Mike McCarthy be the head coach and be able to call the plays?
Andy Reid does it, but I agree with you on that.
I didn't say Andy Reid's name. I didn't say his name.
Now, here's the thing. Mike McCarthy is on the clock because if he doesn't do well, he's gone. I'm going to tell you, I've been telling people that.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
And I do not think it's going to be Dan Quinn who will be the next head coach.
Who do you think?
I don't know who's next head coaches, but it won't be Quinn.
It won't be Quinn. And it won't be Payton either.
No, it won't be Sean Payton. Hey, speaking of Sean Payton, did you see the Oscars?
I didn't see the Oscars.
Well, Russell Wilson's wife was wearing a see-through. I mean, it left anything you imagine. It was gone because you saw everything.
I'm going to have to pull that up. Can you pull that up?
Yeah. Wow. I've already pulled it up about 10 times.
So what was the purpose of her?
That's what I don't understand. I really don't, because it was pretty provocative.
That kind of explains what happened this year, how the team and the birthday party case scenario went off during the year. So that's crazy.
But Then also, did you know that Russell Wilson, after the 2022 season, had arthroscopic surgery on his knee?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, nobody knows that. He had surgery, so he was having some serious knee.
And also, Sean Payton took his office out. Took his
Yeah,
office.
yeah, he used to have it up there by the coaches. He had an office.
His own office.
Yeah, why is he not in the locker room? What do you think of that?
I think that's the problem with these modern day players. I think some things you don't want to mix in the equation. I think you have to be team oriented, and you got to be right there with the buck of your players. I mean, go in there and smell the locker room. Go in there and just have a conversation with the second team guy, the third team guy. Get to know their wife name, get to know the kids, and that's the difference. And we knew everything about each other.
Yeah,
back in the day.
True. Do you think players have changed or parents have changed?
I think parents have changed. Technology done changed the course of how players should be. I think everything is too easy. Everything is right there at your fingertip.
Yes.
Their attention span is like that, not that long. I think that's why they don't learn their plays, because they on this deal.
Well, you got to remember, everything's on iPads. They don't write things down.
No.
They don't have to memorize it. You remember, we had to write it down, and you had to know. But that, like you said, technology has made it easier just to look at a pad, and we can measure. When I was a coach, we could measure how many hours they spent on the pad, and you can measure things you weren't supposed to, but it was done. And speaking of that,
so that means you can keep up with everything. That you can monitor them even more now.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, I know this is a little bit off the subject, but Deion Sanders. First of all, he kicked the guy out of the weight room that didn't have the proper socks on. Everybody was supposed to wear black socks, and he wore the one guy wore white socks, so he kicked him out. And
what do you think about that? What do you think about that?
I think sometimes you don't have rules for anything. You gotta have, especially with a team like the University of Colorado, who struggled the last couple of years since we left there and won the Pac-12 South. You have to have structure. You have to have, and a lot of good coaches do that. They structure it so, and it wasn't anything that was wrong. And you got to have kids understand. And he talks about it, going to school, getting the education. He said less than 1% is going to make it to the NFL from these teams, to be honest with you. Your education is the most important. And what kind of father you are, what kind of brother you are, what kind of friend is more important than making it to the NFL, because that's reality. Regardless if you make it or don't make it, you're going to be a father, a brother, a friend to someone.
I think that's a good example, and I think nothing wrong with that. That's the way I would be if I was a coach. Look, this is the rules. These are the guidelines. Because one day, wherever you go and you end up, you end up in jail, guess what? You're gonna be told what to do.
That's exactly right.
So you actually need to understand these are the rules. These are the guidelines. This is what's expected of you. And then we got this, that, this, and the other. And that's what makes a difference. And when it come down to making hard decisions, when it come down to 4th and 1, guess what? You're going to make it happen.
Yeah. And that's right. Now, I don't know how his coaching is, but he's going in the right direction. When I was a coach, Deion was at the Cowboys, and I could honestly say that he knew his game plans, and he studied. We come in there at 4:30 in the morning, and he was in there watching film, and he knew his opponents. When his physical ability left, his knowledge of the game helped him stay around a lot longer than he probably should.
It made up for a lot of things that he was lacking.
Yeah, and he had a lot of foot issues, and that was family related.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we know that he had his big toe amputated,
right?
And everything, but he had foot issues and toe issues in the NFL. But his knowledge of the game helped him. People would think that he was a tremendous athlete, which he was,
right?
And one of the all-time best. But what he did well was understand that as you grow older, your physical ability is going to get worse, but your mental ability should get stronger.
Yeah, yeah. It take a special person to play over 12 years in the National Football League, and whenever you run across those type of guys, they are very unique. They did something that nobody else did. They made sacrifices. They knew how to take care of their bodies. They was master of their trade, and they were just people that's different. I mean, just one lane it's a lane that hardly ever too many people walked in. Yeah. So you was one of those guys. So I applaud you and some of the people that I know, the work you had to put in and the sacrifice that you had to make, and you still getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So everybody got to find the type of person you are. So when I talk to these kids, I say pick up a pen and write your own story, but you're the prime example of how you write your own story.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a lot goes back to your background. Unfortunately, my dad passed away this week. He passed away Sunday, but he gave me the blueprint on how to be successful. And everything I do is because of the kind of person he was and the kind of dad he was. He was hard. He was fair. He was a good man. He had his issues. He had his demons. But I was crazy about that guy. That was my hero because he would tell me, I always tell my kids this. Everybody's going to tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you what
you need to hear.
Yeah. And he would always says, and I have 4 brothers and 1 sister.
Uh-huh.
And he would talk about being in the company of men. He said, you're in the company of men, so you better act like a man. And that's what his big thing was. And, I was blessed to have him for 62 years. I was blessed, and he's at peace now. So I'm happy because that's all I ever wanted to be because he was a good man.
Yeah, we both talked about our dads this week, earlier when I called you.
Yeah.
And they both, my dad was a World War II guy as well. Mm-hmm. And you said your dad was in Korea, right?
Yes, Korean War.
So, and we talk about the things that they had to, they had to endure to be army and military guys, and that carried over into them being a father,
raising kids.
It's 10 of us, so you're exactly right. My dad was a carpenter. Like I done paint this whole house inside and out, and every time I paint or pick up a paintbrush, I got some of his tools out there in the garage. Every time I look at that, I know what he said to me, and it still whispers and goes through my ears and stuff. So I'm exactly knowing exactly what you're talking about because it sticks, man. It's just something that you can value forever. It's a treasure.
It really is because I never forget, and I know we're getting a little off the subject, but we had to stand in line, and your beds had to be properly because he would take a coin and flip it off. If it didn't bounce, you were in trouble. You'd be making that bed again.
You didn't make the bed right, buddy.
That's right. You didn't make it right. But, how it relates to was, I learned that when I started playing football, the discipline and the little things helped me become a better player.
Yeah.
And I understood that you had to do it a certain way. And I understood instructions and how to take the instructions properly.
My daddy gave me a hammer and he told me this is how you hit a nail. You drive it. And so my brother, he picked it up and he was tapping it. He said, that boy that ain't gonna be worth a dog. He ain't gonna mount the hell. He said, you got to do it like Byron. You got to drive it. There's a certain way you got to drive nails and stuff. But the little stuff like that really makes a difference.
It really does. And it helps you whatever you do in life. And that's the reason I say this is because Deion Sanders is teaching those kids how to drive a nail like Byron Williams. And that's going to help them later in life. But there are going to always be some kids that just going to tap it.
Yeah, you can't tap it. You got to drive it. And you got to be consistent with the delivery. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And guess what? you got to hit a nail on his head.
Yeah, and I always talk negative about the Giants, but the ball is teaching them how to drive nails.
Yeah, and that's why he got Coach of the Year. And you know, the ball, just the little thing. You know, he's in the player's corner. He's talking to them as they're coming off the football field.
Exactly.
You know, all that stuff adds up.
And I don't think they say players, coaches, you can be to a point, but you also have to be the hammer, and you have to get them to go. You got to be able to say, hey, this is not right. This is not. Everybody talks. I know you get a lot of stuff about Kadarius Toney.
Mm-hmm.
Kadarius Toney didn't want to be a nail.
He didn't.
He wanted his way. And that's what happens with a lot of players. They don't understand there's the right way to do things and the wrong way. But the thing that the ball does different than Judge is he makes them understand why he's doing things. He explains it. And I've always said the great coaches can communicate.
Yeah.
And they can talk to people. Andy Reid is a perfect example.
And perfect
example of a coach that can get the players to understand it, because honestly, they have one of the greatest quarterbacks, and he's probably one of the greatest in there. But they're interchanging positions, receivers, running backs, and all those other positions, but they still win.
Yeah. Yeah, and a prime example of Daniel Jones, for example, you know, it's just the coach that came in and he just tweeted here and tweeted there and moved him just a little bit, and he got it. I mean, his whole outlook on the way he played was like night and day from the previous 4 years.
Yeah,
you know, and that's why they signed him back. That's why they signed him back.
These are the things when you asked about Mike McCarthy, can he handle it? These are the things he's going to have to do, because if his focus is on Dak and the offense, there's less focus on the defense. So you got basically, and the reason I said that Quinn won't be the head coach if they fail is basically you got two coaches now, head coaches. Quinn will be the defensive head coach, and Andy Reid, but Mike McCarthy will be the offensive head coach.
Yeah,
because he's still ahead of it, and their special teams will be the special teams head coach. And will it be successful? Yeah, it's been successful. There's teams that have done it and been successful, but it's difficult because now whose voice are you going to listen to?
Right. Well, you know, just looking at the NFC East, we were talking about this. So I think they're going to go back to all the 4 teams with the Eagles, the Giants, the Commandos, and the Cowboys. I think it's going to come down to coaches.
Yeah, I do too. I really do. And I think with the Eagles losing so many coaches, and everybody's saying, well, you know, they do. And they do. They have a coach on the field in Jalen Hurts, but they don't have those position coaches because they're all gone and their 2 coordinators gone. And nobody understands unless you play the emphasis, unless you put somebody in that position that was there. When Dave Wanstead left, we had Butch Davis.
Yeah.
And things like that. You know, Norb Turner didn't leave when Jimmy was there, or he left after Barry Switzer, during Barry Switzer. But those things make a difference.
So if you look at the insights of what we're talking about, just look at the coaches that's left the previous team. Look at the Rams. Look at some of look at even the 49ers had some coaches to leave.
Exactly. New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Yeah. So because when they build those teams, they build them in their image.
Right.
And that's the issues you run into is that they're used to those coaches in that image.
Right.
When those coaches leave, you got to bring somebody in that might not understand the psychology of the players he's coaching. And you think that's something that doesn't happen, but it really does happen, because when we went to first one, San Jose State, it was we had those players believe in what we wanted done in our psychology, how we wanted it done.
Right.
In Colorado is when we went there, Houston, but they fed into it. They understood what was supposed to be done. And you don't have to scream and yell. You explain.
Explain it.
You talk to them and communicate. You're not their best friends. It's just like we were talking about our fathers. It's not like it's the same thing. But you got to make them understand that you're doing it for them to be better players.
Right.
And better people. Kids would come in and sit in a room with me and watch film and ask questions. I asked them questions a lot of times is, what do you see? So I could understand what they're seeing. So I can understand why they're doing certain things.
Right.
And those things help them.
So another thing too that I wanted to talk about is the off season.
Yeah.
Really, the teams that really preparing themselves now and getting the right mixture of talent with the draft, free agency, the OTAs. Now, what they're doing between now and the end of August, those are the teams that really going to be your playoff team, the team that you can prepare to look at in the long run.
Let me ask you this question, and I've always thought about this. At this time of year, do you think the emphasis are on the training room staff and the weight room staff because they have more time with the players than the coaches? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's a combination of both because mental preparation, physical preparation, and physical fitness is what about. It's improving. It's also making sure that these players can play the duration of the season for 18 weeks, then the playoffs. So it's a total package now, and it's a whole different situation to where these players got to be fit from top to bottom, not only mental but physical.
I agree because where we went 16 games, they 17 games. That's that, and people don't see that they have less time in the off season as far as preseason games. I think that hurts too. And they don't have a lot of physical practices. You can only have so many during the season.
You know, some of these players now have chefs that cook them certain types of food. Their training regimen is totally different. They got these private trainers. They got a program in across the country called Exos, where players go in and they can be physical fit. They constantly get treated from top to bottom. They get, suction cups and all things for their body. They got masseuse and massages, and we go back to the massages, but someone might be getting too many massages. But my point is, you have your body is your vehicle.
Yeah. But to that point, and I agree with everything you said about the massages. Do you think that some of these kids overtrain? Because the body can only take so much load on it.
Absolutely. And that's the equation that I want to say. You have to rest your body some too.
Yeah.
It's just like anything else. If you get a horse and you run him from here to Dallas and 20 miles and you don't let him rest, guess what? He ain't gonna be able to perform.
Yeah.
So you have to incorporate some type of rest component.
And my son, he was a CFL All-Star, but he turns 33 this year. He's 32 years old.
Yeah, I know. And then 2 weeks ago, y'all was on the JMB talking show. Y'all were talking all that smack and stuff, talking about the ugly guy's not here tonight. Bro, I heard what y'all saying.
But the point I'm making is what you said is I always talk to him about you can't train like you were when you're 21 because your body can't do that.
Right.
I'm going to be 62 in a couple of weeks. I can't train like I was in my 30s. I have to know my load, but it doesn't. They call it load management.
Right.
It's being smart and knowing your body and what your body can do and what it can. But you also got to be able to recover. And I'm big. I said, if you don't want to get any injuries, you want to be able to recover and understand your body. And he does the massages. He does all the stuff to train it. He spends a lot of money.
Well, one thing I saw him on the show, he was eating certain types of food.
Yeah, he's got to eat a certain time.
A certain portion of intake, right? Yeah. So he got that down. He got that He got that Jeffcoat code in his system.
Well, he hears it all the time because I always tell him, like I said, I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you the truth, son.
What he needs to hear.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
Yeah. Speaking of what you need to hear, we haven't talked about basketball. First, we haven't talked about the WBC Classic. Japan won. Otani and Trout were up, and Otani, they play together for the California Angels.
Right, they're on the Angels, right?
They're on the Angels, and they were up at the ninth inning, and Otani struck him out. But do you realize that Otani's only like 6 feet tall?
Wow, man, he can throw that ball.
Yeah.
And you're talking about exciting to watch.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think it passed people's expectation on the
company. It really did.
What happened?
And Japan was only the second team to ever go undefeated in the World Baseball Classic. The only other team was the Dominican Republic. And Japan did go undefeated through the series. And they thought it was 3-2.
3-2.
It was 3-2 that Japan won, but that shows you, the popularity of baseball around the world.
Well, everything gonna become global. Probably it's just with all the different people around the world.
That's
true.
And
now it's a whole different case scenario with training and competition and learning some things, and you got everything instantly that you can find out. So
here's some things that on Sunday we were talking about on the Mac, Jack, and Jim show.
Mm-hmm.
There was a pitcher. I think he was a pitcher. Mac would correct me on it, but he was from the Netherlands, and he got a contract from the World Baseball Classic. And then there was a catcher who defected from Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's talent around the world that in unexpected places, Italy, the Netherlands, that you hear about, obviously, the Caribbean countries, the Dominican Republic,
right?
Obviously, Cuba, and places like that, South America. But there's other talent that nobody's untapped. And it's good to see that because you never expected. And same thing's happening in football. Football is starting to become more global, and you'll find different places where you'll find talent. Germany is probably going to be at one point. I didn't play with him. I coached a guy that was who played Sebastian Vollmer. He was an offensive lineman.
Yeah. And
he played in the NFL. He won a couple of Super Bowls with New England. He was a starting left tackle.
But check this out, Jim. I got on the plane. So this guy behind me, he's a retired rep, but he played about 12 years. It was Andy Studebaker. So Andy Studebaker was a linebacker, and he played. But come to find out, he's of German descent.
Wow.
And his parents invented the Studebaker cars.
Oh, I didn't know. Wow.
So I had this guy in my hometown to do research, and then he told me that the family from Germany, they moved because he told me he grew up in Illinois. So they moved to Illinois, and then they went out to California during the gold rush, and they invented the cars. And and then they moved back to Illinois, Indiana area, and he said that his daddy wanted a Studebaker. So the guy from my hometown had 3 Studebakers. Mm-hmm. So I sent him pictures of a 1951, a 53, and another one, like a 2-seater Studebaker. And so he said they've been, so we're going to try to get them to buy one. But make a long story short, they're originally from Germany.
Wow. That's crazy.
A unique story. Story.
That is unique. That's very unique. Yeah. But that's interesting. That's weird. But everything is becoming global. Yeah. Now, on to you see that wrist action? Just let you see it.
But you have to have this. Is what people don't realize. I was all everything basketball. You have to have the elbow up, and if you have it up,
nobody can see my hand. My elbow's up. but nobody can see that.
Put your elbows on the side. Don't try to
It's not on the side.
You learn something every day. Just tell me you learn something then. That's all right. But yeah, the Sweet
basketball.
16.
It's yeah, they were in the Sweet 16. We're in March Madness, and here's the thing that March Madness is doing. The XFL didn't last long enough to get into March Madness last year, if you remember correctly.
Correct.
They only had 246,000, and their ratings were off it. They plummeted.
Wow.
Because people are crazy about March Madness. I know you filled out a bracket. I know your bracket's destroyed.
Are you serious? You can ask Matt. The two teams, I only name two teams that I like.
Mm-hmm.
You know what the two teams are like?
What?
Alabama and Houston. Those two teams.
Interesting.
Those two teams right there. One of them teams can probably win the whole thing.
See, I did different. My two teams that are alive in my Final Four are Alabama and Texas. Texas is going to, I bet for Texas against Houston.
Okay.
So that's the only two teams I got.
One of the kids, he's a true freshman, I think, at University of Arkansas. His name is Joshua Wash. His daddy,
Yes.
Yeah. So they doing good. So they won. So they're still there. They Sweet 16. It's good to see this kid. I used to see him all the way from. He's a twin. See him all the way up, and it's good to see somebody that you know from day one that's in the Sweet 16.
Here's the thing that's going to blow your mind. Out of the Sweet 16, I am losing. I only have 4, so I have 12 teams left in my Sweet 16.
Yeah, 12 teams?
Yeah. That doesn't mean I lost some teams along the way because I thought Memphis was going to beat FAU.
That was a disappointing. Yeah, I thought Memphis would at least get to the Sweet 16.
And I lost in Duke and Marquette, and then I lost in Kansas.
I would have took Marquette.
You wouldn't have?
I would have.
I took Marquette, and I lost.
Marquette lost. That's right. They did lose.
They lost. They lost to Michigan State.
Yeah, that's right.
I had
you got that's another thing too. You got to look at the coaches.
That's true. That's why I should have. Well, Shaka Smart, I thought he was a good coach, and obviously we know about Tom Izzo.
Yeah.
So that was just a tough one. I thought Duke was playing well this year, and I thought they would win because they were playing. Tennessee just beat them up. I mean, that was some bully ball right there. Guys were coming out with blood and black eyes and stuff.
Yeah.
Tennessee was physical with them.
Yeah, Tennessee going to be tough. I tell you a team that's playing, they were predicted to be last in the Big 12 was Kansas State.
You're going to say Kansas State. They are. I've known him, Coach Tang.
Yeah.
I've known him since my kids were young. He's been around a long time.
That's good. That's good.
I'm happy for him. He's a good man. I tell you a team that's still people is quiet because they didn't have the year that is Gonzaga. The Zags.
Timmy is no joke. Timmy's from Dallas.
No, yeah, he's from Richardson. Yeah.
So you have to look at the coach.
Yeah, you're right.
That's a good example right there. Gonzaga.
So, yeah. And I think Texas, if they get past Xavier, they can make it to the Final Four.
Yeah, this is gonna be a big test. This is gonna be a big test for Texas. Xavier is no joke.
Yeah, I got the only reason I got Miami upset in Houston is because Sasser is injured. If Sasser was healthy, I would have put Houston over him and have Texas and Houston.
I think it's gonna come down. I think that coach Sampson gonna pull it out for him.
And I think Alabama is going to struggle because they have I forgot his name, the guy that's really good who's probably going to be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft, and he was in that incident with the gun. He's not 100%, so I think that's going to hurt them. I was going
to say Alabama probably got the easiest route if they can keep playing. They got San Diego State, and then they got the one of Princeton and Creighton.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Creighton is pretty good now. I watched them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Princeton it's a unique style, and this shows you now with teams like Princeton is they get those kids for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Well, really 4 because they don't have 50 years at Princeton.
Right.
So they get them 4 years, and they play together a lot of games together. And
you can say that they play togetherness for basketball. Togetherness basketball.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the final. And I tell you the thing, here's something. And on the women's side, I picked South Carolina to win, but they play Iowa in the if they make it to the Final Four, Final Four, and Iowa can shoot the ball. I'm not thinking they're going to beat them. I think South Carolina's too physical.
Yeah.
But Iowa's got this girl named Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
She is, I just think that, honestly, I think they have enough. Don Staley has done such a good job of meshing those girls together.
Yeah.
They have enough girls that can defend her, but it's going to
be. They usually be focused of the South Carolina team.
Yeah,
but what I was impressed with was the way Miami played Indiana.
Yes, they beat the number 1 seed.
Yeah, and I mean Indiana had so many people in the stands, but I'm gonna tell you they focused that out and they played hard basketball. They took it to them from day one. From first to the opening.
I agree with you. And then they weren't the only one. Not UConn. Stanford got upset.
Stanford got upset. 2 number ones,
they got upset. What you don't see a lot in the girls' side. UConn is starting to play like UConn, but I don't know if they can physically hold up.
Yeah. They don't have the talent like the depth and the talent, but they got the coach in place and they still play with their heart.
Yeah. Yeah, but they don't have a deep bench.
No.
That's what hurt. They played more people this year than they have in the past.
Right.
But it's fun. I love this time of year, and I love to see it. And while we're talking about basketball, we also have the NBA is coming down to the end. And right now, the Mavericks are playing Golden State. And Golden State, when I last looked, the Mavericks were winning. And they might not be now. They're not. It's 58-57. But Golden State hasn't been good on the road. So it is only a minute and 50 seconds left in the first half.
Okay.
And Luka's back.
Yeah, it's 59-57 right now.
It's 59-59 now.
Okay.
So this is the thing, and here's the interesting thing about on the West. It's one game from 6 to 12.
One game. One game.
Yep.
Ain't they adding more teams to the playoff this year? Ain't they adding a couple more teams?
Yeah, they are. And I was somebody texted me and said not to say girls, it's young women. So I'm correcting that. Young women.
I'm glad you taking your thinking cap, pulling it down a little bit so you can say the right.
Yeah, because
young women. That's it.
I had 2 young women that played D1 basketball, so I better say it right.
You had a house full of talent.
I don't know about that. They thought they were talented. I told them that when it's my time to pass over, I always mention at my funeral how I used to take y'all. They said how y'all never beat me. They said, well, you never played us when we got older. I said that's because I retired.
You know what to do. You ain't,
that's right. I knew when to quit.
Hey, you got the knowledge for a reason.
Yep.
I remember I took my daughter out to the track. I said, you want to run 100 or 200? that's around a little 200, Dad. She thought I was going to give up. I said, you can always say you couldn't beat your dad. Life lesson. That's what you call a life lesson right there.
Yeah. That's when you get the wisdom.
Yeah.
You know, at some point, you got to finish playing them because you ain't going to beat them.
And you know, it got to the point, I started running some of the guys I trained, some of the football players. They couldn't beat me in the 10 yards. That's all I raised.
That's all.
I know how to start. See,
that's right.
Because if I get it up in the high, y'all be gonna pop the hamstring.
So I stopped playing even in young women that I wear in my household.
Young women.
Young women. I'm saying young women.
And you are politically correct. Yep.
But this is a fun time of year, obviously. This is when you see why players play in the NBA. I tell you a team that's nobody talks about, but they're quietly having one of the best seasons, Sacramento. Mike Brown might be.
Sacramento is playing good basketball.
And everybody's talking about MVP, but nobody's talking about DeAndre Fox.
Yeah.
He's playing really well. And I can't take anything from Embiid or Jokovic, but I think he's playing. And I think the most crucial player on their team is obviously Giannis. I think Giannis, without him, Milwaukee's just another team.
Yeah, they can't do nothing without him.
But Giannis makes them always scary. Boston has got a good group right there, but can they sustain it when they get to the playoffs? Every team.
Boston got chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what carrying them. I mean, you know, you got another coach and they're still doing the same thing they did last year. They play hard, physical, consistent basketball.
Yeah, they do. Now, I think as a whole, the East is a little bit more balanced this year than the West. I think it's going to be interesting because I think the better teams are in the East. You know?
And the West, they don't, like I say, they don't lost so many games. I mean, they 36 and 30 something. You know, they balance, but they're not consistent like the East.
Yeah. What do you think? Julius Randle scoring 57 points and they still lose.
57 points. Well, I just think too that they lacking just a little bit more oof. But man, they almost right there. I mean, they are playing good basketball, and I think now they see that they real close. They can win. So I think being in any game the way they play, but 57 points speaks volume for him.
Yeah, he's Dallas. He went to Prestonwood Christian.
Right.
Julius Randle. Marcus Smart went to Flower Mound Marcus.
Yeah.
So those guys that are in there, obviously, I can't remember his name. There's a player that went to South Garland that's on the Philadelphia 76ers. He's pretty good. Brett Maxey. It's not Brett Maxey. That's the football player. But his last name is Maxey.
His last name Maxey. Okay.
And he went to South Garland. He was a colonel. So.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And he went to Kentucky. So, you looking it up?
I was trying to see if I could find it.
Mm-hmm.
But and then he's with the
76ers.
76ers. Huh. Okay.
So, you know, there's a lot of Dallas. Speaking of the Dallas players is
his name is T Maxey. He's a guard.
Yeah, he's a guard. He's really good too.
Yeah.
But there is North Texas is losing their coach to Texas Tech. And he was
in basketball.
Yeah, they just beat North Texas last night, beat Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State, yeah.
Guy can coach.
Yeah.
And then Penn State's coach is going to
That's in the NIT.
Yeah, the NIT. Penn State's coach, who Texas beat, is going to Notre Dame. Rick Pitino is going to St. John.
St. John.
And the coach from Fairleigh Dickinson is going to Iona. And the coach from Providence is going to Georgetown.
Yeah, Georgetown.
Yeah.
Yep, I saw that.
A lot of movement.
But so that's good because it's all about if you got to win 20-some games in the collegiate level, and when you do, you get another opportunity.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Yeah. So that's good. And they were saying North Texas should have went to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, they were saying that over some of the teams that went.
Yeah.
They said it. So, but it's been
the
fun.
level of competition. I think it's the level of competition too that they consider as well.
They got some kind of thing, that power rating they do now.
Yeah.
And how many teams, all that. They got all these computers on how they pick the teams for them. But obviously it's not a science because look how many number ones are getting knocked out. And some teams, like we talked about at Princeton, it was a number 15 seed, and they're in the Sweet 16.
Sweet 16. Hats off to Princeton. And Fairleigh Dickinson, man, I'm so proud of Fairleigh Dickinson.
Yeah. And their coach is already gone. He only stayed there for a year.
Hey, that's what success brings. Brings bigger opportunity and bigger pay.
Yeah.
Pay me now. Pay me the money.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That's the way the world goes these days.
Yeah.
In every sport. In
every sport. It's all about level of success. So
yeah, it is. It really is.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see this because what I'm noticing is certain teams, like when Purdue played Fairleigh Dickinson, everybody talks about obviously the big guy inside. But what Fairleigh Dickinson, as you know, basketball, like I do, we're playing 5 out. So they negated them.
Yeah.
And they were pushing him 1 foot away from the basket, and he wasn't comfortable doing that. If you know, he's 7'4", and he usually turns around and either dunks it or shoots it and just lays it up. They kept pushing him out of his comfort zone, and he struggled. But he still had 23 points and 15 rebounds.
Right.
And their guards were freshmen. That's what killed them because they pressed them.
Right.
They were pressing them a full court press, and their guards couldn't handle that.
So he had a master game plan,
mm-hmm.
and they just outsmarted him.
Yeah, and their style was getting them.
Team basketball.
But when they got to FAU had that guy that was 7 foot. I think he was 7'2", and they played different. They played fast.
Yeah.
Because Fairleigh Dickinson, like you said, could wear you down.
Yeah.
And they couldn't wear FAU down.
Right.
And when you look at Princeton plays like a chess game. They're not going to out physical you. They're not physically as talented as some, but they got shooters and they play good defense.
Good defense.
Helps them.
And you know one thing about a basketball player, you got to be in shape.
Yes, you do.
That heart rate, and that stopping and starting and movement.
Right.
It's a different type of conditioning.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Is that you got to be there, and especially teams that are full court press. Remember a long time ago with Nolan Richardson,
Arkansas.
When they press you, shoot, as soon as the ball rolled out, 40 minutes of hell they used to call it.
Yeah, 40 minutes.
Yeah, remember that? And they used to do that, and it was hard for teams because they wear teams down.
I want to see a coach throw the chair across the deal like Bobby Knight. I want to see that happen. I want to see that happen.
I went fishing with Bobby Knight one time.
You did? Did you catch that little bit of mental like you did down in Lake Fork?
You saw my trophy. Actually, I have a golf trophy for you. And you don't want to play me golf anymore. I got that big boy golf now.
I got a picture of me taking the fish out of the water, holding it up. You ain't got no picture of nothing.
I got pictures.
So I think the guy that was driving your boat caught your fish.
I'll let you touch my trophy.
And he say, you pull it up like this, Jim. Pull it up, and you're going to get your trophy.
Yeah, whatever. I'll let you touch my trophy. I have a golf trophy for you. But it's getting to the end of the show, and I'll let you touch because it's way bigger than your golf trophy.
Drink more water.
But we're into the show, and I'd like to thank everybody for coming, and it's always fun being here. And
It is.
Good wrestling. It's Hump Day.
Hump Day.
Hey, let's have a great finish the week, especially the young women out there.
Sweet 16. We'll see you.
All right.
Okay.